Okay, so back to questions. A lady named Valerie asked if we ever found anything out about the Sasquatch we found on our land one time. Welcoming home a local hero, right? At least in my book. Well, what's up, guys? It's Daniel from Arms Family Homestead, and welcome back to southern Oklahoma. Yesterday, it was bright, sunshiny, and about 95 degrees. Today, well, it's beautiful now. It has rained all morning. I tried to come outside and work multiple times. Come outside, it'd stop raining, come out, it'd start raining again. Wind would be blowing 20 miles an hour. Trees have just been whipping all day. So it's 10:30 this morning, and I have not been able to do anything. And but that's all right. So I don't know. I don't have a lot going on at the moment. It's muddy. Everything's kind of nasty. Can't really start a big project. I've got projects that need to be taken care of. But I made a post on Facebook and said I was thinking about doing a little Q&A type video and ask if anybody had any questions or anything. So if you're not following us on Facebook, I post a few things over there that don't make it to YouTube if that's the only place you follow us. Sometimes maybe like a 30-second, 1 minute long video or something, or pictures. A lot of pictures go up on Facebook, so make sure you're following us there. But I'm going to answer a few questions as we walk and talk and discuss things today. I don't know. We'll see what the day brings. First thing, though, the Kato mini excavator is back home. My buddy borrowed this, the guy that, hauled it on his rollback wrecker. He borrowed it before we went to Pensacola, Florida. Well, I say that. It was at his place while we were working, doing tornado cleanup and all that stuff. And then he's just had it ever since. And he had a few little projects he wanted to do. But this thing is due for its first service. So I'm not going to be doing that today. But I may fire up a pressure washer. We'll see how many hours it's got right now for sure. Yep, 53.5 hours. So it's due for the 50-hour service and needs a good cleanup. This thing was one heck of a piece of machinery to have for tornado cleanup. And we got a few little scratches and things, nothing major, a little bit of cosmetic damage and all that, but it was well worth it. But anyways, Kato sent me all the filters and everything. We need to do an oil change the hydraulic filter, air filter, all that type stuff. I wonder what they found. You reckon there's a mouse under that feed trough? What'd you two find? Huh? Is there even anything under there? Am I gonna move this and there just be like a bug? Oh, there's a mouse. There he goes. Gemma, he went this way. Earl. Oh, he went up the tree. Listen, guys, I tried to help you. The mouse is headed up the tree like a squirrel now. You missed him. You think there's more under there, Gemma? Because I don't. No more mice. But that leads me to my first question, talking about the Kato excavator. I noticed a question on the Facebook post, and I'm recording this on my phone, so I can't read the question. So I'm gonna give you the ad-lib version. So a lady named Trixie said she lives in Texas, and she's curious about Oklahoma. She said, I love living in Texas, but I don't think I could live in Oklahoma. She wanted to know how many times in my life have I been directly affected or my family directly affected by a tornado, because she said she didn't think she could live every day thinking that it could be, the last day of life as she knows it. And that's really just not the case with tornadoes in general. I don't feel anywhere, but here specifically, I mean, this year has been very, very, very unnormal, uncommon. This is one of those years where tornadoes seem to be popping up everywhere. But as far as how many tornadoes I've lived through, I really don't know. But as far as ones that have directly impacted and caused major damage to my hometown, only two. And the most recent storm that we showed you guys all the videos about, and the other wasn't really even in town. It hit north of Sulphur about 7 or 8 miles and destroyed a lot of homes. It was on the ground for like 20 miles. The day that storm hit, Dusty and I were in northeast Oklahoma on a spoonbill, a paddlefish trip, and it was bright, sunshiny day, and my wife called and said, hey, we're headed to the tornado shelter. There's a huge tornado headed for Sulphur, and we're 3 hours from home. But it luckily didn't hit town. There's been a lot of small tornadoes, pass nearby and cause damage. And a lot of tornadoes hit other towns, but it's not like we deal with these things every day. This year, I feel like it's just been very wild when it comes to the weather. And tornado season, just the weather's been perfect for it. And it's just kind of the way it is. We had a tornado. So the day that we came back from Florida, we were driving up from Dallas, and there was an extreme, they've been telling everybody for days ahead of time, this day is going to be extreme high tornado danger. And Saturday when we were coming home was one of those days, and we'd come up I-35, make it home, went to Jimmy Houston's crawfish boil, and we're watching the weather, and there was a tornado south of us about 60 miles. And really, don't think a whole lot about it at the time. Get home the next morning, start watching the news, and right where we drove through, there was I think it was Valley View, Texas. A massive tornado went through there, killed several people, destroyed a lot of stuff. But like I said, I think the internet has opened up a lot of that. We see a lot more than we used to see 20 years ago, and there's a lot more people documenting these things. So it's not that common, honestly. There's not a lot of tornadoes that have directly impacted me and my family in our hometown. Now, across the state of Oklahoma, there's been a lot over the years, and there's several every year. But as far as just being pinpoint hit with a tornado, it's really pretty rare. What's up, Charlie? It's all muddy out here today, isn't it, buddy? So someone was asking me, they asked a question about the mama turkey and her babies. When we left for vacation, she had 4. The day we were leaving, something happened to one. Houston found it in the yard. It was alive, but it wasn't getting around very well. So when we left, there were 3. Now, I have no idea where she is. There's the duck. There was a duck sitting on a nest full of eggs over here before we left. And no baby ducks hatched, but she started with 3 chicks, and she's down to one baby chick. And part of that was her problems, because the chicks hatched at 21 days. Ducks don't hatch until 28 days, and she was trying to stay on the nest until the baby ducks hatched, and she lost a couple baby chicks. And that's just part of it. But back on the mama turkey, I see her out here. I'm going to go see if we can catch a peek at her babies. She's on the outside of the fence, and all the donkeys and everybody are on the inside. Goats are all hanging out in the barn because it rained today and they hate to get wet. But the donkeys are out here on this bale of hay. So before we left for vacation, considering the fact that we have very limited pasture right now because the fencing situation, and I'm going to show you, I'll give you an update on that. We're coming along there, but I knew this pasture was going to get grazed down extremely fast with this many mouths to feed. There's only so much it can support. So a friend of mine had 250 round bales just baled that week. So I went and bought a brand new fresh bale of hay, and everybody's been munching on it. Hang on. I found Sleeping Beauty. Old Pepper over here just snoozing away, aren't you? I don't want to interrupt you. You keep napping. What are you doing? What in the world? Why are you on my shoulder? Huh? Okay, here's the mama turkey. Mama turkey and 2 babies. Someone was asking about. I want to know how she was doing. Baby turkeys, if you've ever raised them, can be very difficult to keep alive in a brooder in a barn. So out on pasture, when she's taking care of them herself, it's going to be near impossible to get 100%. So if she can raise a couple, that's a pretty good success. Hi, Baker. What are you doing, little girl? You sure are a sweet little baby, you know that? I mean, Bree is too, but she wasn't when she was a baby. Look, Bree's running interference. Thank you, Bree. Thank you. Okay, so back to questions. A lady named Valerie asked if we ever found anything out about the Sasquatch we found on our land one time. So there's a story behind that, and Sasquatch was Weston. Most people never saw the follow-up video. I never even noticed it in the background. We were doing a big control burn, and Weston was in the background, and he like runs and jumps through the smoke, and I don't know. I didn't think anything about it. Jason from Cog Hill Farm, you can blame Jason for this one, was like, dude, you got Sasquatch on video. So I did a follow-up video. That video got picked up by every Sasquatch hunter, every Bigfoot hunter channel on YouTube. It was on, those clips were on every TV show for Bigfoot and Sasquatch and things that shouldn't exist and all this stuff. And for the most part, none of those folks ever asked if it was real or not. They never asked if we knew what it was or not. They just took the video, analyzed it themselves, and didn't ask questions. But the follow-up video to that, like the next video, was me saying Weston was Sasquatch. Can you believe that, Larry? People want to believe things, but they don't even want to ask questions if it's true or not. All right, listen, girls. Your pasture's almost finished. Your fence is almost done. I promise you we'll get you back in contact with Brandon, you know, if you know what I mean, really soon. Because this pasture is almost complete. We lack one stretch of fence, and the guys probably would have been here helping us out today if it hadn't rained all morning. But for the most part, they've been able to reuse a lot of our fencing, and we haven't had to buy a ton of material, but we have had to do some. So the back two sides on this pasture are complete. You can see that fence back there was completely washed out. It is back up, and I don't know if you guys will be able to see much of it on video. That big brush pile of limbs and stuff is everything I piled up that was washed into this pasture and things. And then that whole fence back there is done. And look at all the nice green grass. Ooh. This pasture over here still, he's got several stretches done, but we need about 2 more runs of fence stretched, and it'll be ready to go too. So one more day, if we can get the weather to cooperate, one more morning, and we'll get like 5 or 6 more T-posts drove, and then we can splice this roll of wire onto the new one because a tree wiped it out down there. But we're getting close. And a lady named Irene asked if we had to have any sort of special permits to have mini donkeys or llamas or alpacas or things like that. And no, in Oklahoma, those are not considered exotics. There was another question I saw, and I don't remember who asked it, but asked if we ever have any exotic animals show up on our farm. And every state's probably a little bit different. So when you're talking about exotics, I assume they're talking about, like in Texas, there's a lot of exotic animal ranches that are high fence hunting ranches, and they're starting to appear in Oklahoma with like African plains game, you know, different types of antelope and impala and all the different kinds of deer and all that stuff. And there's a lot of high fence ranches in Oklahoma. Also, there's a exotic drive-through animal park about 15 miles from us, and every once in a while they have animals escape. We've never had any exotics show up here. The only weird things, I did one time have a peacock show up. One time I had a bourbon red turkey show up, and he lived here for about 6 months or a year, and he drifted off with the wild turkeys. No idea where he came from. He was probably obviously somebody's pet at one time. And when I was a young guy, maybe about 12, 13 years old, I had a four-wheeler, and I'd always go out riding around. And one day I found an emu. Not a pet emu like Larry. This sucker was wild. And back then, there was a huge market for emus. There were farms all over Oklahoma. People raised emus for emu oil. It was going to be the next, get rich scheme thing. And when the market fell out, people started just kicking them loose because they couldn't even sell them. They went from like $10,000 for a pair to nothing. People couldn't get rid of them. So I see an emu out running around on our property, and I'm like, he's got this big, long, skinny neck. I'll just drive up next to it on my four-wheeler and reach out and grab him. I had no idea that an emu could kick straight sideways, but he just about kicked my four-wheeler over at about 20 miles an hour. And I had no idea where he went, but I never messed with him again. Okay, back to the fence thing. Back here behind the greenhouse, so this stretch goes from here up behind the house to our other gate. That is complete. It's all put back in. That was completely washed out. This is the stretch that was washed out by trees and stuff. So we've got new wire going up here. Most of our stretch posts, or corner posts as we call them, all of these were just driven in the ground with a skid steer and a post driver when we put them in. They weren't concreted, so they're in the ground about 4, some of them maybe close to 5 feet, but no concrete. And they held up very, very well to the flood, considering the amount of stress, the amount of force that was put on them. This one, you can see, is that tall post closest to us is leaning to the right just a little bit maybe. So it's not perfectly level anymore, but structurally wise, for what its purpose is, I think it'll be just fine. Most everything else, we had one corner post that got actually taken out by a tree and has to be re-welded. My gate got all bent up, but this is not a gate we use very often. I don't know if you can, yeah, you can tell. It's just a cheap little, like Tractor Supply, cheap gate, but it just goes out the back of the pasture down to the creek, and we really rarely open it. So I think we'll be able to bend it back out, straighten it out, and use it perfectly fine. So we're making progress. We're almost ready to put the donkeys back in their pasture. Where are you going, Izzy? Oh, here comes Earl. Don't get muddy, please, buddy. So while I'm down here by the greenhouse, the high tunnel, the garden area, several people have asked about the garden and the greenhouse, and I feel like I've addressed it multiple times, but it's excuse the mess, pardon the mess. There's still a mess down here, but it's cleaned up a lot more than it was, trust me. Several people have asked, how come they don't see gardening videos anymore, ask what we're going to do with the high tunnel, why we're not using it. And like I said, I feel like I've addressed it multiple times, but here's the short story. And I'm going to try to give you a short story. The garden, the high tunnel, was a huge passion of mine for several years. Gardening was a stress reliever from law enforcement. I could come home, go out, work in the garden, and I could see my results. I could see I was getting somewhere. And gardening for several years was a side hustle. I sold vegetables to friends and family and all kinds of people. Gave away way more than I sold, but it helped provide a little income. The high tunnel came along in the early days of my YouTube transition into the homestead community, and it was fun growing in there. It was a great experience. We probably only ate about 10% of what we grew out of here because it's honestly way too big for what we needed. But I got to test out and do and try and learn and grow a lot of things and did a lot. But over time, interests changed, obviously. Hobbies kind of changed. Kids' interests changed. Houston and I, that was our thing. Our jam was the greenhouse. And as he's gotten older, his interests have changed. But the channel has to ebb and flow and grow with what people are wanting to see and what people are willing to watch. And the gardening videos, some did okay. But quite honestly, I could spend 3 hours out here in the garden, make a 20-minute gardening video, and it would get a quarter of the views of a video where I walked down to the creek with Houston and Jacoby, and we played in the creek. We caught some crawfish, we caught some bluegill, and we had a good time. And we come back to the house. Those videos would perform better. That's what the audience wanted to see. And that was amazing to me, because that was what I enjoyed. That was what the boys enjoyed. And that's just kind of, things evolve and change. It's kind of like the equipment videos. You know, I dreamed of the day that I might someday be able to afford to buy a skid steer. And when I bought it, a lot of people were like, oh, that's stupid. You don't need no stupid skid steer. You're just showing off. And that thing has been used and viewed by, it's been used by me and a couple people, but viewed by literally millions of people. And those videos have performed very well, which when they perform well, then any content creator is just going to keep repeating what works. So it's hard to come out here and make a garden video that's going to get a quarter of the views that something else that I enjoy more is going to do. So I'm sorry, I know a lot of folks like gardening videos and like the gardening content, and quite honestly, I've probably got 200 or more over the history of our channel about gardening. And it's just not where our interests lie right now. We've got a farm nearby, a young guy that I learned from, that has a CSA, a community supported agriculture model, farm market type place. They grow thousands of pounds of vegetables every week, have their website set up. You can buy from their website, and then they have a drop point in town. You just go pick up your vegetables. And quite honestly, he's way better at it than me. And I don't grow 100 heads of lettuce and eat 12 and feed the rest of the animals that way, I guess. So I don't know. Hope that makes sense. Meow. Where are you going, Cody? You're scaring everybody off. Every time I try to talk to a cat, you run them off. So we need to mow, obviously, but it's been raining. So one thing I noticed, of course, all these are oak trees. They have acorns. And even after mowing our lawn at least 5 or 6 times already this year, there are still thousands of tiny little oak trees. Now, I know somebody's going to be like, oh, you should harvest those and pot them up and sell oak trees. And maybe you could, but these guys are relentless this year. I mean, I think every acorn that hit the ground in our yard has sprouted. The squirrels didn't do a good enough job hauling them off, Earl. Probably because you were out here chasing the squirrels off, huh? Weren't you? So next thing, I've noticed several questions asking about Weston and Emily and why you guys don't see much of them, what they're up to. So quite honestly, they're good, and I'll explain all that. But I think in just layman's terms, pretty much any kid that grows up with their parents in a career, they don't like their parents' career. Like my dad built fence for a living when I was a kid, hence the reason I hate building fence now. You know, if you grow up with your dad as a plumber, you don't really typically want to be a plumber until 7 or 8, 10 years after you're on your own. You're like, hey, I kind of like that business. Anyways, teenagers kind of go their own way. It's a little bit, you know, they just choose. They don't want to be on the videos all the time. They don't want to be on camera all the time. And I respect that. It's just their own thoughts, their own privacies, their own opinion. Now, as far as Weston goes, Weston's 22 now. That's crazy to me. His birthday was May 13th. We have a 22-year-old. You know, Weston started a YouTube channel, and after high school, went to college for 1 semester. That didn't really work out, and decided to go to work and move out on his own, which is his choice. He can do what he wants to. Has bounced around several different jobs, honestly. Moved to Oklahoma City and moved back and moved here, moved there, but he is currently living in our trailer house on the Mill Creek property and not shooting content, not shooting videos, which that's his choice. I mean, if he wants to do it, he can do it. If he doesn't want to, that's fine too. He's actually, it's funny that everybody's asking us, he started a new job today. And by new job, it was the first job he got after he dropped out of college. He worked there for 7 months. He's going back and working for that place. So he'll figure it out. He'll settle down. He'll figure out life. We all have to figure out life on our own and go our own ways, and that's just what he's doing right now. He did go on vacation with us, and you know, you saw him in the fishing video. If you watched that, he was there when we were cooking fish. He's there all week, and we had a great time. Emily, 16, just turned 16 a few weeks ago, in April, and has her driver's license and is in all sorts of athletics and doing her own thing. She's got like 4 basketball camps, team camps with her basketball team this summer, a couple church camps, softball, doing all the things that a 16-year-old athlete girl does, and she's just busy and doesn't enjoy going and playing in the creek or, shooting YouTube videos with the rest of us. And that's fine. I respect that. She doesn't want to be on video. I'm not going to make her. So that's where those two are at. Now, obviously, I can't answer all of your questions, and I apologize for that. I made that post on Facebook, and there's probably 400 comments in the last hour. I may try to answer some in the comment section, but quite honestly, it's near impossible. But I hope that answers a few questions. I read through a lot of those, and when there were multiple people asking the same question, I tried to address them. Another thing that a lot of folks were asking about, probably because I made a post, on Facebook yesterday and posted pictures, was the Murph. How did things go with the Murph? So if you're not familiar with what the Murph challenge is, it kind of maybe started, definitely didn't start in the CrossFit community. It was adopted by the CrossFit community, but started as a military thing. And Lieutenant Michael Murphy was a Green Beret, I believe. Don't quote me. I don't know the whole story. But if you've ever read The Lone Survivor, watched The Lone Survivor, he was part of that. And it was a workout that he always did. So the Murph, 1 mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, and a mile run. It is brutal. The CrossFit community does it every year on Memorial Day. It's called a hero workout to honor fallen soldiers, especially Lieutenant Murphy. They call it the Murph. I think when he designed the workout, he called it like body armor. So you're supposed to wear a 20-pound weighted vest to simulate body armor. That's a little bit advanced. That's the very advanced level. You can step down and do it without the extra 20 pounds, which is what most of us do. And then you can cut it in half and do scaled and all different variations. But yesterday was the Murph challenge. Did the full Murph without a vest, a minute and 20 seconds slower than last year's time. Was a little disappointed in myself.
Let's go!
Watch his time.
Houston, you're not even sweating. Come on.
What's time?
53:35.
Well, how was it?
Freaking sucked. Horrible. Last year, DJ and our friend Tracy did the half Murph. This year, they decided to do the full Murph and beat me by like 9 minutes. It took me 53 minutes. They did it in like 44. I was so frustrated with myself, but I finished. It is what it is. We'll work harder and do better next year. Got to hang out with a good friend of mine, Danny Long. Danny is, man, I've talked about Danny on the channel before. He's a retired trooper. He has taken over the mental health and wellness division of the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, and is doing some amazing things with the patrol and all first responders across Oklahoma. Danny did a podcast with the patrol that I shared on this channel a couple years ago. Danny was in the military, did some very wild and crazy stuff in the military, I'm sure, comes back and is a trooper, switches over and starts doing a lot of stuff. He's like cross-deputized with the U.S. Marshals, and the dude is, for a lack of a better term, a badass. Okay, I don't cuss on this channel very much, but Danny's one of those guys. Danny did my background investigation, our in-home interview when I applied to the patrol. I've known him forever, and he was there with the wellness division, so he's retired from the patrol, hired back on as a civilian to take over like the mental health and physical fitness and wellness division. And so he was there, was a guest speaker, and it was awesome to get to hear what he's doing with the patrol and all of that. And I don't know, the Murph is an incredibly difficult workout. Oh! Good job. I think you were holding that in for a minute, Haley. But it's what the history and what it means, what it stands for is why DJ and I are involved in CrossFit. Honestly, it's the community, it's the people. We had so much fun. We had probably 70 people competing in the Murph yesterday. We had like 5 different groups, 5 different flights. You know, there's only so many stations in the gym, and just everybody comes together. You're cheering for each other, and when you're 30 minutes into a 53-minute long intense workout and you feel like you can't push another step and you got 50 people there cheering for you, it's just an amazing feeling. So it didn't go as good as I hoped, but it went really good for my wife and Tracy. Now, my buddy Richie, on the other hand, who you guys, cameraman Ron had thoroughly coined up the term, when he misses a fish, he called it, he Richied it, because when he took Richie fishing, he missed every fish he caught. Well, Richie Richied the Murph this year. He didn't compete. He told us all week last week in Pensacola he was doing it. He just couldn't do it. He just got too scared, I think. He was too intimidated by it. And his wife and my wife kicked my tail, and he didn't even compete, so I didn't have anybody to beat. But anyways, it was great. It was fun, and I'm completely physically exhausted today. So yeah, it was worth it though. The Murph, look it up. If you've never heard of it, look it up. Watch The Lone Survivor, read The Lone Survivor, learn about the history of it. It's amazing, and that's what the CrossFit community is about. And I don't know, it's interesting to me. So I know this video was a little bit different. Hope that answered some questions. Hope that answered a few things that some of you have probably asked 100 times and hadn't got a solid answer on. So anyways, I think Houston and I, if the weather will hold up, have big plans to go fishing this evening and probably pretty much every other day this summer, because that guy wants to go fishing every single day. So we've got some plans coming up, some collaborations in the works, and I think it's going to be a good summer. So anyways, guys, I'm going to quit for now. Guys, remember, do something today to make somebody smile, because you never know, it just might change the world. So guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. You guys have a great day. And as always, we'll see you on the next video.